All right, today we're diving deep, going all the way back to the dawn of Chinese philosophy. We're going to explore a fundamental clash of ideas that really shaped an entire civilization. And believe it or not, it all starts with a single, massive question, one that every single one of us has to wrestle with. Seriously, think about it for a second. What's the absolute best a person can be? Is it about being rich or powerful? Maybe it's finding some kind of spiritual nirvana? Well, for the earliest Chinese thinkers, this wasn't just some late-night dorm room question. It was the central problem of life. And the answer they came up with was, well, it's pretty amazing. So what was their answer? The highest goal is to become a sage. Now, when you hear the word sage, you might picture a hermit on a mountaintop, totally removed from the world. But that's not it at all. The ideal here is to have sageliness within, which is that deep spiritual understanding, but, and this is the key part, to also have kingliness without. That means you're an effective, ethical, and fully engaged member of society. It's this incredible fusion of the spiritual and the practical. To really get what they mean by sage, you have to understand that in China, philosophy wasn't some stuffy academic subject. It played the role that organized religion often plays in other parts of the world. The point wasn't to just collect knowledge, but to actually elevate your mind, to give a spiritual anchor to your life and to society itself. And this quote from Lao Tzu, it just nails the idea. Learning is about adding things, facts, data, information. You increase what you know. But finding the Tao, or the way, is the opposite. It's about stripping things away, decreasing your ego, your attachments, your complications, until you get to this pure, more elevated state of being. It's about transformation, not just accumulation. Okay, so a worldview like this doesn't just pop out of nowhere, right? Like all great philosophies, it grew right out of the land itself. You really can't understand these core ideas without understanding China's geography and its deep agricultural roots. I mean, imagine this. For the ancient Chinese, living in this enormous country, their land pretty much was the entire world. They were farmers. Their lives were tied to the soil, to the predictable, reliable cycles of the seasons, the sun, and the moon. This creates this incredibly deep connection to nature and a way of thinking that's based on what's real, what's tangible, and what comes around again and again. Confucius captured this feeling perfectly with this quote. He contrasts the wise who love water, which is always moving, changing, a perfect symbol for seafaring people, with the good who love mountains. Mountains are all about stillness, permanence, being rooted to the land. So, in a way, you could say early Chinese philosophy is a philosophy of the mountains. It's about what endures. So what you end up with is this really fascinating mix. On one hand, Chinese philosophy is intensely this-worldly. It's all about society, ethics, how we treat each other. But at the exact same time, it's also otherworldly. It's reaching for something transcendent, for connection with the entire universe. So the big challenge becomes, how do you live in this world day to day while also reaching for the other? And that is the exact problem that our first great thinker, Confucius, decided to tackle. So this is where Confucius steps onto the scene. He was China's first real private teacher, and he came up with the first complete system for how a person could actually become a sage. He looked around at the chaos and conflict of his time and basically asked, how do we fix this? How do we create order? And more importantly, how do we create good people? His answer was a kind of three-step path. It all starts with what he called the rectification of names. This is the idea that for society to work, words have to mean something real. A ruler has to act like a true ruler. A father has to act like a true father. Next up is yi, or righteousness. This is just doing what you ought to do in any given situation, not because you'll get something out of it, but simply because it's the right thing to do. And at the very core of it all is gen, or human-heartedness. Okay, so human-heartedness sounds great, but how do you actually do it? Well, Confucius offered this beautifully simple guide, almost like a tool you could use. Think of it like a measuring square for your own actions. One side is cheng, which is the positive side. If you want to get ahead in life, you should help others get ahead too. The other side is shu, which you've probably heard before. It's the negative side. Do not do to others what you do not wish yourself. For Confucius, this is where it all begins. It starts with you. But, of course, a big idea like Confucianism wasn't just going to go unchallenged. Almost right away, a powerful new voice shows up, looks at this whole system of tradition and ritual, and asks a very different, very blunt question. Yeah, but is any of this stuff actually useful? And that person was Mo Tzu. See, Motsu came from a totally different world. He was part of a class known as the Knights Errant, basically warriors for hire who lived by a strict code of action and practicality. So from his point of view, all the fancy Confucian rituals, the elaborate music, the long mourning ceremonies, it was all just a huge waste of time and money that did absolutely nothing to help the average person. His whole philosophy was about utility, about what works, no frills. And get this, Motsu and his followers weren't just sitting around debating. They were a highly disciplined, almost military-style organization. There's this incredible story where a powerful state was about to attack a weaker one, and Motsu just shows up to stop it. He debated the king, he beat their top engineer in a series of war games, and then when the engineer threatened to just kill him, Motsu calmly replied that it wouldn't matter. 300 of his disciples were already on the city walls, armed and ready to fight. This wasn't just talk for him, it was all about practical, direct action. So this epic showdown, this clash between Confucius, the scholar, and Mozu, the militant activist, this wasn't the end of a story. Oh no, this was the opening shot in what would become one of the most explosive and creative intellectual periods in all of human history. I mean, look at the contrast. You've got the scholar versus the knight errant. One is all about social harmony and tradition. The other is laser-focused on practical utility. It's the ideal of the refined moral gentleman up against the ideal of the tough, organized preacher fighting for the common good. And it's this very tension between tradition and usefulness, between making yourself a better person and organizing society for the most benefit, that just blew the doors wide open. This debate created the space for everyone else, the Taoists, the legalists, dozens of others, to jump into this great conversation that Confucius and Mozu started. You know, the craziest thing is, the debate that kicked off thousands of years ago, it's still happening right now in our own societies. Should we prioritize time-tested traditions and moral harmony? Or should we focus everything on what is most practical, most useful for the greatest number of people? So I'll leave you with that. Harmony or utility? Which path really leads to a better world? That conversation is far from over.